If you could describe Japan in a single word, what word would you pick? Well, ChatGPT describes harmony, not bad, but in my opinion, it may be exclusive. Since I was born and raised in Japan, I've seen many good and bad things about it. So today I'm going to share things no one tells you about Japan as a Japanese. Well, since many of you who watch my videos are foreigners, well, thank you for watching anyway. Let's start by talking about foreigners and Japan. First, what I feel most strongly in Japan is that Japanese people tend to lump all foreigners together. In other words, people are often categorized as either Japanese or non-Japanese. What common expression you often hear in Japan is in foreign countries blah blah blah. But when living in Japan, you frequently hear this kind of comparison during discussions. However, even when talking about foreign countries, there are many differences between places like America and China. I also often hear about foreign employees not getting along well with their companies in the workplace in Japan. But I personally feel one of the reasons for this is due to viewing them as foreigners rather than as individuals. So for those who want to live or work in Japan in the future, well, it might be helpful to understand that Japanese people tend to think this way, maybe. But of course, there is no deep intention behind this, and most people are doing it unconsciously, I believe. Well, as a Japanese person born and raised in Japan, I can somewhat understand why we tend to think this way. But I don't think everyone is the same at all, of course. However, it's also somewhat true that when we live with a shared understanding within the groups like our school class, community, or the larger group of Japan as a country from elementary school onwards, we often understand each other without explicitly expressing it in words, due to having somewhat similar values, I guess. So this is the main reason why I described Japan as exclusive. But again, of course, it's unconscious aspect to this. Well, in recent years, with the increase in foreign tourists, opportunities for Japanese people and foreigners to interact have also greatly increased. Well, given that I mentioned earlier that Japanese people may be exclusive, some might wonder, do Japanese people dislike foreigners? Well, it really depends on the individual, of course. It depends on the Japanese person and on you yourself as well. However, this applies to me as well. Many people are interested in foreigners. But especially many Japanese people like to see foreigners like you enjoying Japan. Well, I'm also running this channel because I'd be happy if all of you enjoyed my time in Japan. Well, as evidence of this, there are Japanese YouTubers who upload videos of foreigners eating food in Japan. And these videos get an incredible number of views every time. But on the other hand, it's also a fact that Japanese people show an unbelievable level of aversion toward foreigners who violate manners in Japan. Well, many Japanese people seem to feel extremely uncomfortable with behavior that disturb others or disturb social harmony, such as talking, loudly on trains, and they criticize such actions incredibly harshly. Well, basically, on the internet though. Well, personally, I think this is because Japanese people often sacrifice themselves or kind of endure discomfort to maintain, social harmony somewhat. So their frustrations tend to explode in these situations. But overall, most Japanese people are interested in you and like you. But I believe I can discuss so many topics about how Japanese people feel and think and see foreigners. Well, it's going to be more than maybe an hour, so this time I will stop talking about this topic and move on discussing some social things in Japan. Well, some of you who have come from foreign countries might feel that Japanese people are cold. Well, indeed, I sometimes witness Japanese people ignoring foreigners and walking past others who try to talk to them on the street. I'm sorry about that. However, I think there are various reasons for this as well. Well, the biggest one is that in Japan, there is a very strong, boundary drawn between strangers. Crossing this kind of boundary is a much bigger deal than you might think. Like imagine, we Japanese even set a boundary at the home entrance, so you know how the boundary is important for the Japanese people. We are also strongly taught that inconveniencing others is really bad. While in Japanese we have the term arigata meiwaku, which means unwelcome kindness. A situation where you think you are being kind, but your help is actually unnecessary or unwanted by other person, unfortunately. Well, as you can tell from the existence of this word, unfortunately in Japan, there are like some instances where what one person considered kindness can actually be an inconvenience to others. Well, for example, offering your seat to old people, maybe old women on the train. But some people decline with a smile, of course, and some decline with an uncomfortable face. You know what I mean? Well, it's kind of like disappointing, isn't it? But because of this kind of like background, I feel it seems, more and more Japanese people are trying to avoid interacting with others as much as possible. And that equals, Japan becoming cold. Well, however, in reality, I believe there are so many kind people in Japan. Alright, so the next thing is gender gap. The gender gap in Japan is often a topic of discussion. Well, indeed, looking at the data, Japan appears to be a country with a significant gender gap. It's hard to believe in a developed country, while even, Japanese people find it hard to believe. Well, on the other hand, from my personal perspective as someone born and raised in Japan, I feel that there may be more women who consider having a warm family through marriage more important than pursuing a career. I've met many highly educated women with, graduate degrees who aren't particularly seeking a career. And I've never heard of women in my circle not being able to get a job because of sex. I kind of personally feel it is a difference in barriers. Of course, that is the not 100% reason. I do understand that. And also, I don't think, one is better or worse than others. Anything is fine, anything is correct. This is just my, personal opinion, so there might be someone who has had such experiences, unfortunately. And while the data might make it seem, like there is a huge gender gap in Japan, I feel that it's more about differences in, kind of perception of happiness. If some of you are concerned about Japan's gender gap, I think you don't need to worry too much about it. In Japan, talking about religion is considered, it's kind of taboo, things not to do. I also feel that many Japanese people have this kind of negative image of religion. However, I don't think Japanese people have a negative image of all religions. For example, Buddhism is well known in Japan. Personally, I believe few Japanese people have a negative image of Buddhism. But Japanese people's resistance to religion is mostly due to what is reported in the media. For example, events like the 1995 subway sarin attack or something like ISIS are religion-related incidents. And the more impactful the incident, more Japanese people seem to have a negative image of that religion. I lived in Indonesia for a while, so I have many Muslim friends. Of course, my image of the Islamic religion before making these friends was different from now. Well, I guess many Japanese people have never talked to followers of world-famous religion like Islam, Hinduism, or Christianity. As a result, unfortunately, the image of this religion is often shaped by what is reported in the media. So news tend to focus on negative stories, right? So I think this has a significant impact, sadly, in Japan. When it comes to Japanese food, many people might have an image of being healthy and nutritious. But it's true somewhat that there are many, Japanese meals with a good nutritional balance and health benefits. However, it's not often discussed that there are also quite a few unhealthy dishes in Japan. But obviously, ramen bowl, which many of you love, I love as well. You know, that's the food we also love, but we try not to eat it as often because it's really unhealthy. Ramen is usually high in calories, especially fat and salt content. While besides that, Japanese cuisine often involves like eating fried foods like tonkatsu or tempura with rice, and unconsciously like consuming excessive salt due to things like miso soup as well. Well, needless to say, there is a perception that convenience stores meals contain all sorts of things. Healthy conscious people don't eat them frequently. But while Japanese food is often perceived as very healthy, it is important to know that that isn't always the case. Well, some of you probably wonder if Japan is a good country or not. I believe it's a good country overall. Well, of course, as a Japanese person, there are like so many other negative things I don't talk about today. Of course, good thing as well. But that's for the next time. If there's anything you'd like to know about Japan, please let me know in the comment box below. I can probably talk about that topic next time. If you are interested in Japan, please also check out this video as well. I introduce things in Japan even more. Alright, so this time video is a bit of serious. So it's not like something similar to the videos I usually make, but I hope some of you enjoy watching this video, and I'm happy if you find some new perspective toward Japan. Alright, so thanks so much for watching. See you soon. Bye.